downstairs, running a little behind, so I apologize to the guys out there, but thank you everyone for coming. I don't know if any of you guys have been to BuiltWorlds before, but just real quick, I'm happy to host the VR night. Josh and I set this up to really give something special to everyone who's interested in virtual reality. Working with some of the groups we work with, Damon, Hernandez, Reese, irisVR, Spiral Concepts was an opportunity I thought we could give to everybody here. And just to give you a quick overview, BuiltWorlds was created to really connect technology. Running a little behind, so I apologize to the guys out there, but thank you everyone for coming. I don't know if any of you guys have been to BuiltWorlds before, but just real quick, I'm happy to host the VR night. Josh and I set this up to really give something special to everyone who's interested in virtual reality. Working with some of the groups we work with, Damon, Hernandez, Reese, irisVR, Spiral Concepts was an opportunity I thought we could. I'm gonna leave it there. And just to give you a quick overview, BuiltWorlds was created to really connect technology. All right, a little behind, so I apologize to the guys out there. But, the idea of BuiltWorlds is really to connect technology with the built environment and let everyone using construction, engineering, construction.
What happened?
Can you guys still hear him?
No.
I cannot.
I couldn't hear him to begin with, though, either. Like, it was very...
Audience, wave if you can hear us. Okay, we cannot hear you.
Okay.
We cannot, yeah.
We muted ourselves, so we're going to
There we go.
Again.
Okay.
If they mute themselves.
I think it's there was a feedback or something.
Yeah, I couldn't understand any of what he was saying. I couldn't hear him to begin with, though.
Yeah, can you guys hear me now?
We can.
All right, so we can hear all of you.
Wave if you can hear us. Okay, we cannot hear you.
You can't hear me?
Yeah.
You can't hear me?
I can hear you.
We muted ourselves, so we're going to...
This is so meta.
Yeah, the delay is insane.
They mute themselves.
I
think it's there was a feedback.
So
yeah, I couldn't understand any of what he was saying. I couldn't hear him to begin with, though.
Yeah, can you guys hear me now?
This is a true virtual reality experience right here.
It's like Inception.
All right, so we can hear you. We can hear me. No, we can hear all of you.
I can hear.
We muted ourselves, so we're going to...
This is so meta.
So we're on a 30-second wave feedback. We're going to mute ourselves. So is everyone using headphones?
No.
Bonnie, if you could put your, like, do you have headphones in?
No, I can go get some now. I'll be back.
All right. Amir, does Bonnie need to be here to start, or are we good to go?
Yes. I think she needs to be here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, in the meantime, I think we figured out the. That's my forehead.
Is everyone using headphones?
No.
Bonnie, if you could put your, like,
It's
if
Bonnie's
you have
computer.
headphones in.
No, I can go get some now. I'll be back.
Well, at least we now know where it's coming from.
Amir, does Bonnie need to be here to start, or are we good to go?
Yes. I think she needs to be here.
Okay. Well, in the meantime, I think we figured out the. That's my forehead. Is everyone using headphones?
No.
Bonnie, if you could put your, like, if you have headphones in.
No, I can go get some now. I'll be back.
All right, we're good now. All right? Everyone? Okay, so everyone can unmute. We're good. We're not going to have feedback, so go ahead and begin.
Great, thank you. So Amar's going to pull up a slide deck, and I'm going to start the talk. Amar, can you get that up and running?
Yeah, I'm just going to introduce myself because you're not going to see my face for the rest of the presentation. I'm Amrit Amin, and I'm the 3D artist and designer at irisVR, and I'm talking right now from New York City. And I'm going to screen share the presentation right now.
Awesome, thank you. And I'm Bonnie Reese, Director of Business Development. First of all, so excited that you guys came. Thank you. It's always really fun to talk to other people who are drinking the VR Kool-Aid. I'm going to tell you a little bit today about what we're doing and how we're trying to get more people to use the Oculus Rift. We've got a great business, and we're going to start from the beginning. So, as you guys know, this has been a huge year for investing in new spatial technology and virtual reality. Just want to point out the structure sensor, the Magic Leap. Who knows what that is? But it's very exciting. All of these things that are coming up, and there's just a lot of action going on right now, and it's exciting to talk to other people who are on the forefront of it. Oh, and I also, of course, want to mention the Oculus Rift being sold to Facebook for $2 billion. It wouldn't be a presentation if we didn't talk about it. And that was sort of the huge event that made our co-founder realize that this was something legitimate and it was worth building a business around. Here's a brief picture of the evolution of the Oculus Rift. It has come a long ways, but as I'm sure you all know, it has a ways yet to go. We are really excited about the Crystal Bay, and I'm sure you guys are too. Do you have anything to add?
Oh, I'm just saying Crescent Bay.
Oh, thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, next slide, please. All right, so this is what got us so excited about this, about using the Oculus Rift for architecture. It's this sense of presence. It's this ability to be able to feel what a room or a house feels like before it's built. And we've been moving in this direction with virtual reality efforts for decades, but our founder really felt like we'd made it. Like this is it. Like you really do get a true sense of scale and size, and there's just this incredible experience and opportunity to use the Oculus Rift to help communicate a sense of space. And this was very timely for our founder, who had just graduated from Middlebury with a degree in architecture and was really familiar with the major pain point for all architects, which is this frustration and inability to communicate space to their clients, to understand really what a client wants, and to figure out if what they're building is what the client wants before it's already built.
And this is actually a link that I basically like that it's Oculus. It's made by Oculus, and it tells you exactly how to get to that sense of presence. And it's as we all know, it's a long way out. We've had definitely we've started with a DK1, which is probably still it's still a prototype, and gone to the DK2, and in every iteration we've seen each one of these aspects actually improve in terms of tracking. I don't know if you can see. Can you see the slides I'm pulling, or not, or the website?
No, I don't think so, Amr. I think it's just the present slide.
I only see the slide.
Okay. Oh, you only see the slide. So I'm gonna forward this the slideshow at the end of the talk, and I was just mentioning this article because it talks about tracking, latency, low persistence, and resolution, and optics, and it's all these aspects that Oculus has been improving since they started, since basically the DK1. And I have experienced the Crescent Bay and Oculus Connect, and it's very promising. I don't know if anyone, the audience, actually have tried it. We've seen that the Gear VR already stepped ahead, even probably from the DK2. So yeah, so we're the next few months and more, probably a year, that's going to be very exciting for VR in general, and Oculus definitely Oculus VR. And I'm gonna, next slide.
So traditionally, this is how architects have worked. They've dreamed up their visions, and they're really good at drawing a building and knowing what it's going to feel like, knowing why a window should be there or how high a ceiling should be. Unfortunately, it's really hard for people who are paying for the houses to understand what's going to be built. And so we realized, or I guess I should say, Shane, our CEO, realized that there was a tremendous opportunity to use the Oculus Rift to help take architects' 3D models into virtual reality and give architects a tool to be able to communicate the space that they're creating for their clients, so that they can actually have more transparent conversations and can build the buildings they want to build. Architects have told us that when clients are able to see a space in virtual reality, they give the architects the green light to build more ambitious designs and build the buildings they want to build. So for example, if an architect thinks it's a great idea to put in an extra skylight or a curved wall, which is maybe a little more expensive, it's hard for them to get their client excited about it. However, when the client puts on an Oculus Rift and gets to see the change in light that an extra skylight would make, or the whole change in feel when you have this huge curved wall, then it's much easier for the client to say, yeah, this makes sense, I'm excited about it. So it sort of takes this quintessential core dilemma for architects of being that they've been frustrated about for centuries, and finally offers a way to sort of to get around this problem and to address it head on. It's really exciting stuff. Next.
And this is basically Shane, who's on the far left, and he is the co-founder of the company. And this is him presenting at Machado and Silvetti Associates, and that was basically at the early stages of irisVR. That's when him and Nate Beatty, the co-founder of Iris, were going around just demoing and showing the technology to architects who probably have never seen an Oculus Rift before. And you can see that was a DK1 working on a MacBook, and we still got a lot of smiley faces, and I witnessed a lot of them. So that was exciting time, and it's good to be now and like working with better resolution DK2 and with the Gear VR, and yeah, and more exciting time ahead. And that's what basically our company tagline is: inhabit your designs. And I think that's what we're trying to achieve with virtual reality, is that as Bonnie said, it's a way to convince clients as much as it's to promote good design, and basically share your design as well with colleagues and iterate on it. So what we're trying to do, and this appeals to my architectural background, is that we are not, I don't think this is going to replace any of the traditional ways of visualization or visualizing space, but we have gone from 2D and blueprints and moved to AutoCAD and BIM and Revit and 3D modeling or 3D rendering, and now we're at a point where it seems like the next organic step would be with virtual reality, where you can get a feel of space, and not just how it looks, but actually how it feels. And a cool story, actually, I was just in the subway in New York City, and I saw two people arguing about a blueprint that they just pulled out of their, I guess they're architects, and my mind, I was like, oh my God, I should just I wish I had the Gear VR and put their design in and just show them instead of to stop this argument. Because I think, and I still believe that this is one way that to get people to agree or even get comments beyond just I like this or I don't like this. It's beyond that. I think it goes into more spatial visualization and seeing if this is actually a good fit for the building, if it's a good fit for people who are going to inhabit the building. And it will save a lot of time and money. And that's basically the big result that we're promising people with. And next, yeah, and now we're talking about how to integrate architectural design models into virtual reality and use the DK2. So the workflow, probably, I bet a lot of the audience actually agree with me on that, is that it's very laborious.
Just to
Hello? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can you still see the presentation?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, so I was just saying that probably a lot of the people in the audience agree with me on this. I spend most of my time as a 3D artist and designer basically doing this, which is taking a SketchUp file, a Revit file, or ArchiCAD or Blender, and trying to orient normals and optimization, and what goes into the optimization, because we're still dealing with prototype hardware. So still the hardware, not only the Oculus Rift, but also the computers that we're dealing with are not at the level where it can basically run a lot of polys. So there's a bunch of processes that this slide has, from batching geometries and exporting to FBX, and so the whole process that could take from 15 to 100 hours, which we have heard a lot that it's basically painful for architects and designers to do. We're trying to remove all of that and replace it by a one-click solution, which is the app that we're developing at irisVR, and this is it. So actually, as we speak right now, there is a new update with a new UX design, a new UI, and a better and a smoother VR experience with a higher cap on. Actually, there is no cap. I just checked it, and the poly count that the app could read is pretty high, and I'm very happy about it. So yeah, so now we could basically read SketchUp files. I know the promise is covering all the Revit, IFC, the Blender files, Max, and ArchiCAD. But for now, we have SketchUp covered. The app itself is cross-platform. You can get it on Windows and on Mac. And yeah, it's presentation ready. We have a lot of actually clients that have already used it with their clients and as an InDesign part of their process. Yeah, Revit is the next thing on the agenda, and we're working on that. I don't know how many people actually use. Are there any people who are not familiar with SketchUp in the audience? Raise hands if you don't. Okay. Yeah. I'm actually gonna give you a tour into SketchUp as soon as I'm done with this presentation, because now I'm actually gonna try and show you our app live, and this is again the older version of the app. I'm still gonna show you how it runs. Can you see anything now? Probably not. One second. And right now I'm running a Sketchup file that is an in-house design. So this is the Sketchup file that, can you see it? All right. So I'm going to take this file, and this is our app. That was me. And so it's just a drag and drop into our app and launch, and I'm crossing my finger this is going to work, and you can see it actually. Also, I'm running on a MacBook Air, which is it doesn't have necessarily the horsepower to run VR, but I'm hoping this is going to work. Okay, this is the loading bar. And voila. So this is the same file that was just in SketchUp. It's now in virtual reality, basically. I just need to put on an Oculus Rift, a DK2 preferably, and walk through it. This is our menu, and here you can select, take off the shadows, put on the shadows, and even switch the layers that you have already in SketchUp. Yeah, and adjust the height or put it on ghost mode. So it's all things that basically you can do in SketchUp. We have preserved it for on the app, and now we can exit this. Now we'll just I can't. Now I'm gonna go back to the yeah, and so back. Can you see the slides back?
I can.
Yeah, all right. So, and what the future holds at irisVR or in virtual reality in general, we have a lot of excitement, and I'm personally excited about the next step, which is real-time editing in VR using a Mayo armband or Nimble VR. And Nimble VR was actually, I think, acquired by Oculus, and they're working together into basically including hand gestures into virtual reality demos. And having your hand show up on your screen while you're in VR, it's a big deal for immersion, and I think a lot of people would agree with me on that. Another thing that is a big deal for immersion is basically audio that Oculus has been working on, and they have already with the Crescent Bay they have included a headphone that could work with binaural audio, and also, we have the multiplayer, or what we call a multiplayer, but more in our sake is more of a tour visit, or putting the Oculus Rift on clients in different places and having them actually walk through the same space and commenting on their design. Another thing is mobile VR, which is already here by the Gear VR or even Google Cardboard, and we're just. This is more like a plan. We're waiting and seeing we're definitely developing for it, and we are also we already developed some demos that could work on the Gear VR, but we're also waiting on improving that platform and having better cell phones or even a better Gear VR in the future, because this is still an innovator edition. And light baking, which is a lot of people have talked about, and we definitely want to improve on that, and we're waiting for better hardware to actually work with. And this is something that probably going to happen in the future, where we actually have realistic demos, and rather than just schematic, but it will be visually realistic as much as spatially realistic. Yeah, so these are promises. These are big promises, basically, but we're sure that's going to happen at some point. And here we go. So as I said, I think the updated app is already online, and I would love to have you guys go online, sign up for our app, and whoever is going to sign up tonight is going to get actually a 1-month trial instead of a 14-day that we have posted online. And yeah, and so now if you have, like, let's say a SketchUp file and a DK2 and a DK2 that, or maybe you don't know what to do with it, well, just make a SketchUp file, or maybe get a SketchUp file of the house, and with the app you'll be actually able to walk in it. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much. We'd love any questions, and we'd love to hear how you're using virtual reality and what's exciting you about what we talked about, and also just about the other apps that you're using and what you're into right now.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for them before we get to? And then we're going to get to Damon for a Q&A afterwards.
You can throw the ball.
No.
It's not really.
There's a talk thing on there. I think that's supposed to help.
You ready? Just speak a little louder.
All right. I'm Michael. I'm a co-founder of an augmented reality startup, and we have a similar workflow, so you can drag and drop a 3D file and visualize it in augmented reality. So I'm wondering if you guys are struggling with like limitations in terms of 3D modeling, like number of polygons per model or total file size. Is it really restricted to lightweight files, or can you support like very complex architectural projects like 2 GB files from 3ds Max and this kind of thing? Because this is a huge constraint for us, so I'm wondering if you have a similar issue.
Bonnie, do you want me to go for that, or?
You know, I couldn't hear it very well. Were you able to hear, Amr?
Yeah, I was. The question, I think, was if we have any constraints in terms of number of polys while we're developing the app for architectural files, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So definitely, I think that our CTO and our programmer in New York City can actually speak better about that. But that's definitely an issue that we're dealing with, and we. Because it's, as you know, like it's with architectural files, they're not necessarily as optimized as a game that you're building and from scratch. So we're developing for any native file, and the issue that we're facing. One of the issues is basically poly counts. How we're going about that is by we are probably developing at our own algorithms to do the optimization while running the native file. Yeah, and we're hoping at some point that we will have a higher. Right now, I think we're at a point where the computers, where the hardware isn't matching what the industry, like virtual reality in general. So we're hoping at some point where when graphic cards and CPUs would actually step up to a level where to do the virtual reality level, and I think we'll probably run a better demos, and it will make it easier for us to develop the app. But that's definitely one of the issues that we have definitely talked about. we're developing the app. Yes.
Any other questions?
Well then, so thank you guys from irisVR. I appreciate you guys coming in to talk to everybody.
Well, actually, Matt, if I maybe toss the ball, I had a question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So you're talking a lot about the data flow and things like that from architectural tool, and I know that right now a lot of the industry is leaning toward industry foundation classes, IFCs, right? You even brought it up in your talk. So are there ways that you guys coming from the VR space in this form of data visualization are embracing the standards organizations from the building side and trying to better say, from architectural tool, how do we support the building industry HTML, if you will, right, for 3D models? Are you getting engaged in those conversations any?
With what industry exactly? You broke for a second. With
the building industry and the manufacturers and others, right? The still industry right now is really pushing IFC. You have London and a whole bunch of other cities that are looking at this as far as really a buddy of mine, and it said it best. It's kind of the 3D HTML for building data, right? So I was just curious if you guys were getting involved on the standards level to try to help smooth that pipeline, right, from just either manufacturing or design tool to VR experience.
So is anyone?
Bonnie, you wanna talk about that?
As I understand it, the question's about the construction industry. Is that? Did I hear it correctly? I'm sorry, my reception.
I'm sorry, more of data standards.
Data standards.
For the building industry, yes.
Well, we haven't done much work with standards. Right now we're just trying to be as available as we can be to the people reaching out to us and really trying to get architects, engineers, and construction. So we haven't done much work with standards yet, is the answer.
I think we're just dealing, we're specifically working with the architects and the AEC industry.
But there has been a lot of, there's been quite a bit of inbound traffic from construction teams who are really already using virtual reality and often find our app because they're so frustrated with the process of taking the 3D models into virtual reality, which is surprising because originally we thought that architects would be the ones manipulating their 3D models and trying to bring them into VR, but it turns out that quite a few construction companies are also interested in doing that and have been doing it on their own. One of the more recent articles that I read from a construction company was this company was working on this huge hospital, and there was a picture of a guy in full scrubs, clearly a surgeon, with an Oculus Rift DK2 on his face. And apparently 35 major suggestions were implemented because of his experience in VR, and it really made the whole design process of this hospital and building process of this hospital much better. So it's being used in construction right now, but I don't think it's at a point right now where standards have been set. I think I'm answering your question, and I apologize if I'm not.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you.
So I have one question. As BuiltWorlds is going to be hosting the AEC Hackathon here in March, can you talk a little bit about some of what you guys did at the last AEC Hackathon as a participant?
I wasn't personally there. Amr, did you talk to Jack about that a lot, or do you want me to talk about?
We haven't. So I have not, but Jack has been. Jack is our programmer with our CTO, Nate, and they have been to the AEC Hackathon. I think that was in Seattle. Yes. And they did. I don't think it was related necessarily to virtual reality exactly, but they worked with a construction company, I think. I'm not exactly sure because we have been to other, I've been to hackathons with them, but I'm not exactly sure what they exactly did for the AEC Hackathon in Seattle. But they definitely worked with a construction company at that point, I think.
So what I recall of what Jack and Nate told me a while ago, and it was a brief catch-up, so was that they had a really cool application for safety and training.
Yeah,
Basically, it
that's
was
what it is. Yeah.
right. It was the gamification of safety and training exercises, which
Yeah.
is something that is actually a huge benefit. We've been talking to oil and gas companies and mining companies because they have these huge facilities that they've fully modeled out in Revit or sometimes in their own customary files. But they have these huge 3D models, and their utility basically ends once the property is completed. But training and safety are some of the biggest issues that they have. So it's exciting for the people making these 3D models to be able to extend their useful life by putting riffs on people who will be actually in the space and helping them train. Or, for example, if there's an issue on an oil rig in the middle of the ocean, they can pinpoint where that issue is, and then they can take an employee and put the rift on them and have them actually walk through the path they'll need to take in order to fix that issue. So it's a really exciting implementation of virtual reality that I don't think was originally intended at the AEC hackathon, but I think we're actually going to get that there's a huge opportunity around what they started to work on and sort of tinker with at the hackathon, and we're hoping to maybe develop that further.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, irisVR guys. I want to thank you, and I'm going to hand it off to Damon. Damon is actually one of the founders of the AEC Hackathon, helping us put this together in Chicago. And Damon, I'll let you introduce yourself and all the things you're involved with.
Sure. First, I would ask if I can get a show of hands from the audience. How many people are from the AEC space? Okay, awesome. How many are developers then of VR? 1, 2. Okay. All right. Any kind of developer, UX designer, anything like that. Just trying to get a feel for the audience. That really helps with the talk because I'll throw a big. Okay. All right. Awesome. So we'll get started. So I unfortunately didn't know, again, the audience that I would be speaking with. My background is I've spent about, honestly, the past 15 years in the ISO standard for 3D online, Web 3D. And so that has many different viewing mechanisms, everything from augmented reality, as I heard in the audience, to virtual reality, Google Earth, you name it, right? If it's a 3D object of something online, there are actually standards for that, been around since '97. For those that are developers, they may be familiar with the virtual reality markup language, VRML, turned into X3D. And then, honestly, it just stayed where standards matter, not in entertainment, not in gaming, right? So a lot of these things that traditionally drive more of technology adoption haven't been a necessity of standards. If I'm making a game for zombies and things like that, it wasn't until a few years ago with the economic crunch, actually, that the gaming industry started to look at Collada, a format for data exchange and things like that as a standard to reuse assets and save money. So again, I play very much with the standards for 3D Online, in addition to how those work with other standards that are relevant to the built environment, geospatial standards, and then also things like augmented reality standards, and then the actual viewing of this data. And more importantly, not just meshes and vertices, but actually intelligent data, right? Because there's more 2D information about our built environment than 3D. So I really get excited and passionate about the display of large 3D data sets that are smart objects. And then now that we have the Internet of Things and whatnot that are actually making the objects real-time smart, it just makes it more fun, right? So, so that's kind of the big umbrella. Being involved with an ISO standard kind of puts you in every industry, and so I've spent the past 8 years with a building company that focuses on using essentially techniques that have been proven in Western Europe and in other parts of the world, but subtractive digital fabrication with actual interactive 3D technologies. So you're going to have to forgive me, I am a Google Hangouts noob. I'm going to try to screen share a presentation with you guys. So one moment. And of course, almost all of this stuff you can find online. But Let's see, where are you here? Okay, let me see when, can you see?
Yeah.
All right. So this is, again, the kind of homes that we build. We do panelized. We use those types of machines and then actually CAM models, so computer-aided manufacturing. I work on the tech team where we kind of look at how do we geek out the job site to mainly help our builders. Now this was an application that we built back actually in 2007 that allowed people to go through a unit and click on different elements and kind of like a little homeowner's manual. So a lot of the applications when we're building for the building industry, because they have such tight budgets, is we really look at how do we make an application that's interactive 3D, and then with minor tweaks, it could be VR, it could be AR, and that type of thing. So we really try to build our applications agnostic of any particular viewing mechanism, and that's why the web is a good platform. So, so this is an application that went to scratch a certain problem that we had with general contractors and bidding on projects. The current video you see, well, what you see in the video actually is a tool from Esri, now owns, called City Engine. And what it allows for is the rapid development of urban environments. So of course, you know, this was a very laborious process before. If you wanted to make an entire city, you'd have to model that piece by piece. But this tool that came out of essentially Zurich and then got into gaming was acquired by a company that is essentially the Autodesk of geospatial software, one of the biggest ones, right? And so you'll see those cities, and I think they used it as Metropolis and Superman and things like that. Of course, is irisVR, the Oculus. You can tell this was kind of a long time ago because this was the footage that we had. So yeah, so this was the application that was built. This was the virtual reality iteration of an app that started with just a Connect in a web browser. We thought, how cool would it be if you could kind of hold your hands up in Minority Report, wave your hands around, and connect together the shell of a building. And so what you're going to see here is the gentleman's got on the Oculus Dev Kit 1. He has in his hands these Hydra hand controllers. And what it is this is, again, kind of for the extra nerdy general contractor. You have the kind of builder Batman utility belt here, right? On one side, you have something that activates that panel going across the bottom, and on the other side is kind of in the virtual reality and augmented reality view, whereas if you stare at a component for a certain amount of time, you get individual metadata about that component. And so again, so what this allowed for the general contractors to do is they could lay down a blueprint, and then they could select from this library of, think of them as like high-performance Lego bricks. This comes from a database of digitally fabricated ready components, so where, yes, that does look like a basic block. That is actually an intelligent object from our database that we know, well, that 8x12 and so forth. And so these guys could snap together, and as you see there, a total cost calculator floating over the job site. And so it was just kind of a fun little way of using, you know, immersive virtual reality to allow these guys to go in and snap together the shell of a structure to essentially get a cost estimation of what it would be for us, machine and material time, to run in our actual factory in Portland. And yeah, and this was kind of a cherry picker view, and then the city was just showing how you could take geospatial data and integrate that into this. So the idea of this was just, again, it was more of displaying how you could take virtual reality with digital fabrication, and then also real-world data, and kind of do this little goulash, if you will. And these are the kinds of machines that we use for fabricating the components here. So yeah, robots and VR. And yeah, so some of the lessons that we've learned from this definitely fall kind of in sync with what I hear is kind of an issue of the industry as a whole, is, you know, how do we reuse assets? The goal being, you know, is how do I really take the 3D information that really does start with the designer, and then move this all the way through as a persistent model that has ongoing value. And right now there is a lack of good standards, tools, It sounds like there were some accents in the audience, so I'll be upfront in saying that the U.S. is very much about proprietary solutions, where a lot of our neighbors are very open source and open standard. So I think that, as we begin to adopt and work with some more of these international standards, that'll definitely help those of us who want to build the experiences. Because right now it is essentially getting as a content developer, what is the client working with? Is he working with Revit? Then I'm getting an FBX, or maybe I can get a Collada, or does he have a mesh file? Is it huge? And so a lot of, with the hackathon, what we've looked to do is really, how do you get those people all into the same room? I think as much as, when you have now an architect, an engineer, the construction person, and all the different people involved in the process that come together, I think that the technologist needs to be in the room also, because they're all looking at the web or technology solutions like this to add value somewhere. And with that, there needs to be consideration in there for how they architect this information. And so for us as a small firm, I can do that because I can go over and knock the guys on the fabrication department and say, hey guys, when you structure this data, please provide it in this way, right? And then when you can be smart about the applications that you build, because you're only calling the objects that you need, and so forth, right? So some of these tricks and that the gaming industry has solved as far as optimization of a runtime environment, that's definitely where I advocate, and I hope that more gamers begin to come over into the AEC space. Now, with that said, I do get excited because it seems that as the gamers get a little bit past the stage in life where it's okay to, pizza, beer, and late night with the guys, and they're looking at careers and mortgages and children and those kinds of things. They're looking to evolve, but not have to redo their skill sets, right? Part of the reason why the AEC Hackathon came into existence is because I met a developer that was reaching out into AEC, and this guy had so much knowledge that, it was like, all right, we got to get these people together, because I saw the frustration of the architect, and then the people coming from the construction departments, virtual design and construction, saying, hey, I have a 3 gigabyte size building model, and I'm trying to put that in Unity, and it crashes. Your technology's not ready yet. And it's like, no, dude, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I mean, it's a good attempt, but I mean, like let's work on this, right? Let's see what we can do here. And so I think that education of, how do you bring people together to share? And that's not just the building industry, right? That's the medical space. The reality of this day and age is that, almost every industry uses 3D in some way. It's from our design for our clothes to our medical scans to our buildings. I mean, you name it, right? And they all want to use the web as a delivery mechanism. They all find it as a better way of communicating with people. If you ever get the chance, check out some of the work by a guy named Jeremy Bailenson down at Stanford in their virtual hit lab. An amazing guy, truly. I see a lot of really great stuff, but this guy, every time. Really interesting studies on just virtual reality in general, I would recommend. Now, before I move on to anything, I'm going to actually maybe break the format and ask, are there any questions to this point? Any comments that anyone in the audience may have?
Any questions, anybody? No.
All right, man. Okay, so that's one way. Again, so with Idea Builder, we look at how do we use these technologies to improve the actual construction process, make it more efficient, and then provide essentially information that then can be handed off to people like that want to do virtual reality, or people that want to do augmented reality, and others. So it's that communication there. Now, moving on to some of kind of the things that I'm excited about happening now is, again, maybe this is a show of hands. How many people are familiar with what's going on within HTML, maybe something called WebGL? Anyone? Okay, there's a few. All right, awesome. So for those that don't, welcome to the world of 3D graphics running natively in your browser. So yes, beforehand, where if I wanted to show you guys something really cool in 3D or maybe a VR experience, I'd have to say, go grab Flash, go grab Unity 3D, install a plugin. And again, there are some very interesting metrics out there as far as the dropout rate. If you prompt people to install anything, I'm guilty as charged, you know. But what WebGL did is essentially it really enabled 3D to again become ubiquitous, because it said, hey, the browsers are going to support a low-level graphics API that allows for essentially high-end rendering to take place, hardware accelerated, and so again, native Web 3D. And a very exciting time for those of us who have been in the space. And again, you have to remember the first Web 3D was back in '94, a hyperlinking banana. So 3D online is nothing new. It's just now it's on all the multi-billion devices that exist, because when Apple was the last one to accept it on mobile, that's what put it everywhere. And so for those that are looking at technology solutions, I would recommend, you know, definitely if there's a web-enabled opportunity. Web isn't quite right for virtual reality just yet, I will say that. I think it has a lot of issues with latency and some of these other things that they need to work on. But there is great work being done by the Google or the Chrome and Firefox teams, Josh, Brandon, and those guys with the WebVR stuff. For those that are interested, you know, do-it-yourself virtual reality for people that are familiar with that. And whatnot. So really good stuff there. But yeah, so for example, I don't know if you can kind of see there in the background. So what this is this is a globe that essentially I'm running off of this NVIDIA Shield here. Just to show you, it's the same thing. I'll kind of scroll there. Yeah, okay. And so what that is that this is essentially just a tiling globe. So you know, using the X3D standard. That is a geospatial dome, where if I removed essentially the div element that's in front of that and started to zoom into that 3D space, it would begin to tile. Now, if anyone knows how Google Earth or these other tiling globes work, you have to do kind of, it's like when you zoom in and you see the different tiles loading, that's different layers. That globe doesn't go that deep. But again, that is a tiling globe running in a website, no plugin needed, and owned, right? Completely 100% by me. And so I think what's really exciting times is that then as more developers of virtual reality solutions and these others begin to come into the built environment space, there is a plethora of resources that are out there, from taxpayer dollars even, right? I can go out and get digital elevation maps, good scan terrain data. There is a company out of Denmark I've been a big fan of for a while called Playing Mondo. They take this to a whole different level. They use a platform that's kind of a combination of My Maps and Facebook, and have made that into an interface for helping kids and make augmented reality games that are connected to 3D environments of the real world as well. So the idea being, actually, hold on, let me find that. Okay. This will give you an idea of kind of some next interesting ways that people are using these technologies. And this is, again, another one of those that's standards-based. Doesn't really need sound. So what this was an initiative where the librarian said, how do we get kids engaged in the library, right? They're not coming in here anymore. They don't care about books. So they had a little workshop where they used this platform and they built these games. So that as the kids are moving through the real space, we're tracking that information and then showing that in the digital environment as well. And this was a model that they worked with some architects and they created in SketchUp. So all of this was created by the students that participated in the project. So they did work in actually modeling the environment, one, and then two, using the tool to create essentially those geolocated points of interest and whatnot. So kind of this state of a cross or mixed reality gaming. So as you know, these kids are in the real environment, they can interact with those in the digital and vice versa. And so yeah, this I think was presented back in 2012. as a matter of fact. So they were doing that. That was toward the beginning part of the year. So this platform has actually been out since about 2008. But they have recently just integrated in a lot of these other features in the past 5 years. So I'd love to say, you know, I'm showing you the future, but unfortunately, I'm showing you the past. But just kind of a direction as far as where some of these things are being used globally, in different ways. So, yeah. So that was a quick tour through an application for mixed reality gaming. But again, all using the real world. So again, I think one of the exciting things because of WebGL, and again, in relation to the built environment, is that now the stage is really set where so much I hear from many different sources. You know, people would say, hey man, you know, I'd like to have the immersive, either AR, I'm out there walking and seeing the additional information, or VR, or anything in between, experience of our real world. And the digital environment is there. So I think that as these different, it's been exciting to see that the way that this advancements in HTML5 have allowed for the different standards organizations that deal with different 3D to come together and see how their standards play together, to have avenues of, you know, outreach like hackathons and other events to embrace developers and companies that are looking to build solutions with those standards. Because, you know, right now it's just really, it's a cultural issue, right? It's no longer a technological problem of us having this really crazy mixed reality experience where it can either be AR or VR because that technology is there. I think that too many of the technologists are the only ones that know what's going on. Many a times, you know, you see guys that are geeking out, and I'm guilty of it as well, until someone walks in and says, hey man, what are you going to use that for? How are you going to make money with that? And then I think that the other part of it is that you have the innovators of the actual applications that need to be exposed to these new tools. And I think that's another thing that's just cool about any kind of hackathon that does an outreach to any kind of industry is it gives those people that are in the trenches on the day-to-day the opportunity then to walk in, see the new tools that they have at their disposal, and then work with, you know, pretty cool kick-ass people that in a weekend will say, hey man, let's see how we can use this to, you know, solve this problem. So yeah, so that's just again, some of the exciting things going on with Web3D, just in general, and how it relates to me. So, any questions on that?
Yeah. Yeah. Damon, can you hear?
Okay.
Just in case you not yet, just hold it down, but also speak up. Can you hear me now?
A little bit higher wouldn't be bad, man.
Matt, if you want to just, as well, just repeat the question for me. Yeah. I can. Okay.
So I deal with game development with the Oculus Rift. My question is, in terms of 3D web, how do you see new interactions such as the new army and stuff being used? Is that right on the cusp, or is that still under development? Like,
man, I apologize, boss. I lost you right as you were saying.
Yeah, what he's asking is, how do you see the VR armbands being used, and like the Mio armbands being used for like a built environment, or just for?
You know,
would that be like
all kinds of interesting ways. Well, I mean, well, okay, at the virtual reality hackathon, okay, this is just something, you know, there was a guy who had one of those, and he was using it with a Google Cardboard, as when he was running, it would actually take that motion, and that's what moved him. And so he used the combination of that with the direction he was going to actually navigate through the 3D space with the with his mobile app. So that was just clever in general. I don't think he was using that as a built environment thing. But that's pretty neat. I think, you know, what I would say, and this is again another great thing about the hackathons, is really go to a job site, right? I mean, if you look at a job site, they're dirty. There's, you know, crap everywhere. Those guys are sweating. I mean, you know, and I mean, in electronics and a lot of sweat. I mean, one, that's a biohazard in no time if you're really sharing equipment. And then, yeah, I don't know. I think that's part of, you know, our constraint is that, you know, we'll be in the lab working on something, or here in San Francisco, right? Because I run the Office of Engineers here in the city, and the actual building goes up on in the Pacific Northwest. So there will be something where we're sitting around saying, "Oh man, this will be so awesome," and then we get out to the job site and we're like, "Wow, that was really dumb," you know. And so I think that's one of those things is, again, you know, kind of start with what do those guys need, and then as a person who's familiar with that tech, either on just, you know, what's available product-wise or how to actually plug it in, you know, then you can say, it'd be really cool to use one of these because that would save that guy from having to do that, right, or speed up the process. If that answered with the Mayo thing.
That did. Thank you.
Okay, cool.
Any other questions, guys? All right. Well, I think that pretty much about does it. So.
Yeah, we're running low on battery too.
that as well. So Damon, Amir, Bonnie, I want to thank all of you for taking your time with us. They're gonna now go play with some Oculus Rift and other VR models. All right?
Oh, cool. Well, actually, I was gonna ask if I could hang out with the other two speakers. You guys can go away. I mean, no offense to you guys in the background. No offense to you guys in the background.
You got their email, so all right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.